This is a video for women who feel overwhelmed and burned out, what you've lost, and how to get it back. There's a growing number of strong, capable women who secretly feel weak and defeated, and they feel this way because they're under the constant pressure of hidden stress. When life's more apparent stressors overwhelm them, the cultural norm is to seek distraction, prioritizing short-term relief, never addressing the real issues. And this raises a few questions. This isn't about calling out irresponsibility or not being able to take care of your personal affairs in life. It's much more about calling out a cultural model where in order to get by today, you have to make things worse later. And it stems from not having a clear path to moving away from that model without life collapsing. Why doesn't our culture by now have a better grasp on dealing with stress? Like, has this path actually been created, but women just aren't aware of it? Where would you even begin at a personal level to solve a problem like this? What would this solution look like if it did exist? Well, let's answer those questions right now.
Lifestyle before the 20th century was balanced. People ate unprocessed organic foods according to seasons. They went to sleep when the moon rose. They got plenty of exercise and they had lots of human connection, but the 20th century introduced us to advents of convenience that ironically made life more complex. With that complexity came stress, and with that stress came chronic disease. Women's personal care was, and unfortunately still is, taboo, continually isolating women from valuable knowledge that would make them experts on their own bodies. Women are indoctrinated from a very young age that their worth is contingent upon their ability to meet unattainable standards of perfection in pretty much every aspect of their lives, from physical appearance to professional success, to personal relationships, and to do so without revealing any natural human vulnerability. And this has encouraged a cycle of unawareness that's created a legacy of feeling overwhelmed, unrested, and fundamentally disconnected, and it's passed down to every new generation of women.
You may wonder why women living in a Western lifestyle so often fall out of love with life. Well, consider these 7 areas of life and how many of these specifically are ongoing stressors for you. Finances, parenting, relationships, whether that's with your friends, your spouse, your children, your coworkers, health concerns, work-life balance, societal expectations. What about the media's influence on your mood and your emotions? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. True, but unfortunately, introspection, balance, and prevention aren't prized virtues in Western culture, at least not anymore. And this is bad because it segues to a constant high level of stress that just keeps your nervous system in emergency mode and really out of phase with the healing nature of the body to keep you balanced. And it sends your body unsafe signals that just compound previous trauma that you might have experienced in the past. Now, this is common, but common doesn't mean normal. Normal is like, as something should be, an expression of inherent balance. Common is just what you most often see. For instance, consider for a moment that women are almost twice as likely as men to suffer from generalized anxiety, and that same statistic is more or less true of depression as well. Women suffer 80% of autoimmune cases. Hormonal imbalances in women of all ages is an increasingly common issue. And reproductive health problems often come from either undiagnosed or misdiagnosed conditions, treated solely with hormones and drugs that can help, but can also present additional complications. And sadly, many women still believe that these are their only options. But to prevent further decline in women's collective health and quality of life overall, the culture of overwhelm and negligence, it just has to stop being normalized. Fortunately, you don't have to wait before you can start creating the needed impact in your own life, thanks to something called
Building a lifestyle is like building a house, only instead of brick, mortar, and wood, it's constructed from truth, decision, action, and emotion. Truth is the foundation stabilizing your life structure, while decision is the blueprint guiding your life's design. Action is each brick laid, crafting the form that your life ultimately takes, while emotion is your interior design, your character, the style, the warmth infused to every room that makes it a home to you. But there's one more attribute that determines the quality of these other 4. Beliefs are the bedrock, the basis for everything that you perceive to be true, and how sustainable your lifestyle actually is. That being the case, consider a few twisted beliefs that are cornerstones of our culture, and how these can be holding you back from making subtle shifts that are actually life-changing decisions.
Personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think.
There's never been a greater emphasis on following than right now. It's part of our lexicon thanks to social media. The cultural norm of following can undermine boundaries, and it often doesn't really align with your best interests in terms of your needs or your real wants, specifically your personal identity and your health. If you've ever been dismissed or felt gaslit or belittled by a trusted medical professional, you're not alone, because more and more women are feeling this way, and it's left them feeling isolated and a struggle with mental, with hormonal and reproductive health issues that they're just not really sure about how to resolve or even manage on their own. America's built on the ethos of hard work, and achievement is one thing, but how that achievement is defined and attained is really what matters. Hustle culture undermines well-being. It takes a costly toll on work-life balance, on your personal relationships, and even on how you execute on self-care, if you do at all. So recognizing the influence of these unspoken but overarching ideals in our culture is the first step to escaping their grasp and being able to actually harness the power of lifestyle design.
Now, you've heard the saying that it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Well, if the first list of common stressors I just gave you was considered the what happens to you list, then the list that I'm getting ready to give you would be the what to do about it list.
Dietary patterns, what you eat, how often you eat, why you eat that way, and does it really serve you? Your supplemental nutrition, what nutrition are you missing versus how much money are you wasting on unnecessary junk supplements that you really don't even need? Nervous system regulation, is your response always on? How effectively can you get your body to calm down and actually rest after a stressful event? Your physical activity level. Are you sedentary, wondering why your body feels old and broken down? Or do you overexercise thinking that it's just the right amount for your goals, but at the same time, you're wondering why your progress stalls? Your hormones are completely jacked up and you're not really sure what the problem is. Circadian balance. Do you sleep enough? Can you sleep enough? Are you able to reliably fall asleep? Or is there some sort of miscommunication between your body and your brain that just keeps you too revved up to ever truly rest? What about your identity mindset? Who do you perceive yourself to be? And how valid is that identity in light of who you really are and all the strengths that you actually do possess? This is the basis for your behavior, for what you accept and how you relate to the world. And last but not least, your spiritual attunement. Is it you against the world, or do you actually feel like you have open access to something greater than yourself? Are you a part of something greater than yourself? Can you accept that control over the externals is not actually your job, or are you your own God? As these tools are drawn more to the center of your life, the less total stress that you're going to experience. You'll never have zero stress in your life, and I don't think we would even want that, to be honest. As these shifts happen, you're going to improve the quality of stress in your life. What do I mean by quality of stress?
Does your stress have a meaningful outcome? Earning a degree, raising your children, dedicating a year to losing 50 pounds. These are tasks that have a maturity date, and they offer a priceless reward of skill, experience, and self-esteem. Now, contrast that with stresses of a job that you could replace, or a relationship with someone who takes but never gives, or condescending thoughts that chip away at your self-esteem.
Consider these three questions. Number one, is there a soul-sucking stress in your life that's not essential to a brighter future? Question number two, if so, what way could that stress be keeping you from a brighter future? And question number three, is it part of a coping strategy that you could improve on by incorporating a specific tool from that second list that I just gave you? When it comes to stress, ultimately, we choose how we respond. So here are a few basic truths about behavior. Every behavior is a coping mechanism, which is a way either to maintain or to regain a sense of balance. Coping mechanisms are either good or bad. There's really no in between. So it makes a lot of sense to assess them to find out which of your coping mechanisms are really effective versus which ones are just causing you more stress in the long term. You'll gain three key strengths as you make this shift that anybody living in the modern age desperately needs. This is where focusing on the tools from that second list really comes into play. They're going to help you replace coping mechanisms that have been creating what I call collateral stress, which is just stress that you get from doing something that was intended to decrease stress. So let me give you a few examples of what I mean by collateral stress. These would be things like alcohol, junk food, too much caffeine throughout the day, or late night screen use to binge your favorite shows. Guilty. Maybe it's over-exercising or avoiding exercise altogether. Maybe it's people-pleasing or putting off tough conversations or ignoring boundaries you've set, or maybe not having set those boundaries at all. So you may be thinking, okay, fair enough, but if these things that are collateral stresses are holding me together, how do I start changing them without everything just falling apart? To answer that, focus on substance. We glorify instant transformations, and it's really common to want the quick fix, but the value of the end result is really only felt through the experiences that got you there. So it's the baby steps and the tiny wins. This is what creates the first strength, which is awareness. Awareness is going to give you power over your thoughts, over your words, over your actions. You're going to have more direction, and ultimately this is going to enable you to make better decisions that create better outcomes. You develop a sense of self-guidance that's informed by clarity of what you want instead of just settling for the distracting, dislocated dreams of other people. Now, Joe Dispenza says you have to start thinking about what you've been thinking about. In other words, stop living unconsciously, just giving your power of perception away to an autopilot system that's guided by fear-based assumptions. Now, if you're wondering what I'm talking about your brain. By default, our brains are wired for survival, not to help you thrive in our 21st century artificial world. You have untapped strength hidden within your perception, but in order to access it, you have to hyper-focus on intention to create what you need, instead of being consumed by the distraction of just running from what you don't want. Running is evidence that you're living in emergency mode, and it's just a trauma loop that's not being addressed. Principles are guiding rules, or boundaries, if you will. And they simplify decision-making, while techniques, on the other hand, are just like little tricks that create synergy with your principles in specific situations. Principles are the science of intentional living, while techniques form the art of living intentionally. Principles are the substance of why you're choosing to live life the way you are, while techniques help in creating the form and how you live it. Techniques will accentuate principles, but principles should always come first in your planning and your decision making. Create objectives instead of goals. A goal is, I'm going to finish dinner by 7 p.m. no matter what. An objective, on the other hand, is, I'm going to eat dinner a little earlier to phase in this new habit. With an objective, you're still being specific and there's still expectation, but it acknowledges the human element of imperfection and still allows you to win by removing yourself from a pass or fail situation through the development of a routine over just like a win or lose mindset that can cause you to falsely perceive that you're not making progress when you really are. Goals are good, but they can get in the way of establishing consistent progress. Defining principles for your life and setting objectives will create the second strength, which is balance. When you gain balance, you adopt the nature of responding instead of reacting, of reworking instead of rejecting, and pre-planning instead of just automatically prejudging. Balance will make you positive, it'll make you resourceful, and it will make you constructive. Go for the low-hanging fruit. Trying to decrease stress while under stress can paradoxically just worsen stress. Avoid doing that by remembering this. The most important stressor to get rid of is not the one that's stressing you out the most. It's actually the one that's easiest to reach. Gradual improvements may not seem impactful, at least at first, but as long as you're making an assessment, you're coming to a decision, and you're pulling the trigger, you're building. Building is all about creating order by eliminating chaos. As you build a little at a time, each shift becomes a conduit for enrichment, and this becomes an insulation against conforming to your former lifestyle. Building creates the third strength that you'll develop through this process, and that strength is resilience. Just about finished with it. After 20 years and nearly 1,000 private female clients, I wrote the book that I wish I could have given to them all along. And it reveals how we got so stressed as a society, what that stress is actually doing throughout the different body systems that are affected the most. And it gives you a concrete framework to resolve that stress. And that framework adjusts to what your personal needs are. And we're also building an app that's a daily companion, helping you identify your unique stress profile so you understand exactly what's actually driving your stress. and you can resolve it instead of just trying to blindly continue to manage it. I'm only giving access to those that I'm already in touch with. So if you're interested in being in the beta group, that helps to shape the features of the app, or if you just want access to the book before it's full release, then if you haven't done so already, go ahead and sign up through the link below, and let's stay in touch. So in summary, exercise your awareness by challenging some of your own beliefs that are attached to your current stresses. And with that second list of tools to redesign your lifestyle, find the lowest hanging fruit and create more balance by using your intention to make an objective improvement to that area specifically. And stay in touch with this objective. And as you gain space for additional shifts in your life, you'll increase your resilience to the stresses that are connected to meaningful outcomes. And it's going to make them much more fulfilling and much, much easier for you to be able to manage. I'm really glad you watched to the end, because that tells me you really connected with the message of this chapter, and you deserve the insight of what I share in chapter 2 of this video series. So go ahead and click the next video where I nail down where most women stall out in this process and why real change usually just never happens long term, so you can avoid making the same mistakes that they are.